Oh, we got a special guest back from Mozambique. Peter is back from Africa, little safari. So we got to hit it off with In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion is it sleeps
I think
today.
so. Dude,
In
I'll tell you what, man.
the mighty jungle, na 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 na. Here we go. A wimble wit, a wimble wit, a
Uh,
wimble.
uh, 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 uh.
Yo,
Um,
welcome back. I was debating between that and like na Sabanya,
oh
na
yeah, I thought you were gonna go with the Lion King, man.
Yo, what's
But dude, I'll tell you what, man. Like that trip was incredible. But dude, lions just sleep all day, bro.
really?
Yeah. Like after you said that, hit that line, I was like, dude, that's so true. Lions, they literally just like sleep all day, they nap, and then they go hunt at night. But yeah, dude, safari was dope. Saw a live kill.
Ooh,
Saw, yeah, it was crazy. Saw a leopard kill one of those antelopes, bring it up into the tree. I was like, damn, this apex predator, and just like definitely some National Geographic shit, man.
that is wild. What was the food like? Like, what'd you guys get into over there, food wise?
Food was incredible, man. So a lot of game meat. So there's a type of antelope called kudu, I think. Tasted just like steak. I really wanted to try ostrich. Apparently, ostrich is like really, really good. Did not get an opportunity to try that though. Crocodile was really good. Tasted just like alligator, which if you guys have had alligator, tastes just like chicken.
I was gonna say,
But
just like chicken.
yeah, so a lot of it, yeah, a lot of food's just really, really good. A lot of European influences over there as well too. Like South Africa was predominantly, I think, like colonized by, I don't know which one of the European countries for a bit. So a lot of influence over there. But yeah, food was awesome, man. I had dessert for lunch and dinner 2 weeks in a row. So your boy definitely packed on a couple pounds from this trip, dude.
Damn. What any dope desserts or like more like westernized type stuff?
Oh, dude, I will never forget this dessert. I dream about it still. So it's a poached pear with almond sorbet.
Ooh,
Yeah,
damn.
it's my first time having poached fruit with some sort of like ice cream sorbet type shit. But dude, I could have eaten like 5 of those every single day.
That
So
sounds
good.
super refreshing.
Yeah.
Oh man. Did either y'all cry coming back or like you're excited to get back?
Dude, I was excited to get back, man. Honestly, this is 2 weeks is a little bit too long for me. Definitely good to kind of just like decompress for a bit, but just from like my personality, I'm all I need is about like 4 or 5 days at max, and then after that, I'm like ready to get back after it. It was funny, like I know we were like chatting a little bit while I was on the trip about like solving problems for for some of the members in our group, right? Like how can we continue to deliver more value? And one of the things that we're looking to do for some of our members is to set up some done for you paid ads. And just like talking about that, I was like doing some research. Like, cool, how can we actually get this deliverable going, man? But it's just funny. I think there's actually a quote. I think Dan Martell actually was the one who said this, but he's like, let me pull it up real quick. He goes, if you're an entrepreneur, you wouldn't last long sitting on a beach. You sit your butt in the sand for a whole few days before getting antsy. After staring at the umbrella for too long, you probably invent a better one, start a new company, and hire the pool boy as your first employee before you get back from the trip.
Oh,
So every time like I go on vacation, I'm just like, yeah, it's like it's so good to kind of decompress for like a couple days, but after that, I'm like, I definitely start getting antsy. I like the wheels are turning, the creativity juices are going. I'm like ready to get back, try and optimize more things, man. But definitely a good time to to relax, recharge the batteries, and it was really cool just to kind of like get a new perspective on different things, man. Like just like being out there in the safari, just like viewing it, I was just like, damn, like this world is so large. And then this will actually lead right into our podcast episode for today.
dude,
Perfect how we actually always do this thing, right? But
dude, you were, this is what happens. And I think the cool part about like, for you listening to the podcast, it's like you get a sneak peek between like how we're doing things, right? Like we're not keeping the structure the same. We're always trying to innovate. We're always trying to make it easier for people to scale. So one of them is a done for you service. The other one, we actually just landed a huge deal with a global staffing agency that's going to help the people that are part of our coaching group get really great rates for virtual assistants. These are things that like we weren't exposed to in other coaching groups. And now that we're able to provide that for people that are part of Go Getters, I think it's gonna be freaking dope, man. Like the program is gonna look so different this year. So I'm just super pumped. But yeah, Peter and I were talking while he was in Africa, and I was like, "Yeah, my bad. I'm interrupting you on your trip. I'm just hyped because we're making moves on a lot of things."
Dude, I was so excited, man.
He goes, "Bro, I'm ready to work."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like day 4. I'm like, dude, I'm ready to get back after it start grinding and stuff, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the takeaways that I had, I was just like, as we were driving back from one of the game drives on the safari, I'm just, stars are out and stuff. I'm like, dude, this world is so large. Like a lot of the problems that we have within our business, if you zoom out large enough, like for the most part, they're really not that large problems at all. I didn't always kind of like view it like that, right? Like before, like back in the day when I first started, like any kind of like small problem that would arise within the business, I would like kind of view it as like a giant catastrophic thing. I feel like, hey, this entire whole world is about to cave in. And to kind of give you guys some perspective, like I had some shit that went on while I was gone in Africa. One of the things was like one of my company location down in Tampa. The landlord decided not to renew the lease, and we had 2 months left. So now we got like 2 months to figure out like, hey, like how are we going to relocate? Clients, schedule, PTs to a brand new location, do a new build if we need to. And so I think like had this occurred like maybe like 3 years ago, I would have like freaked the fuck out. But now it's just like, hey, like everything will be all right. All right. We zoom out large enough. Like the world is so large. Like our problems are really not that big of a deal. And if you think about it, right, the worst thing that could happen, like, is really not as bad as we kind of like make it out to be, right? And a lot of it just comes from like perspective and like how you frame things. But I think it's good always whenever maybe once a quarter, just like take yourself away somewhere different from your current environment, zoom out, couple deep breaths, and just be like, dude, we're just little specks in this world, and our problems probably aren't really that bad, man. But yeah, that was like one of the big takeaways I had from it. But yeah, man, let's talk about reframes.
Yeah, I'm the same as you, man. Like we went on a 3-week trip last October, 1 week
Yeah.
for Christy's older sister's wedding, 2 weeks for our honeymoon. And dude, I was ready to like after about a week, I'm like, yo, I'm ready to come back home. A week is enough for me. Like we have a trip
Yeah.
coming up. Like we're gonna be away next week at the Jersey Shore for a week. That'll be dope. Like I don't need to take extended long trips. Like I don't know. Like I feel like sometimes people take these crazy long trips to escape from reality. And I'm like, I'm kind of cool with reality.
Yeah.
Like we had when you were away, I'm like, man, we onboarded 2 PTs. Our team is like 6 physical therapists currently, and we're in like this hyper growth phase. We've got ads going for GGC, obviously. We got ads going for PTP, physical therapy, and we have ads going for education. I'm managing more people than I ever have. I'm looking in the room like during our last meeting. I was like, oh shit,
It's packed.
it's getting bigger. It almost feels like I'm putting on a mini seminar for our weekly clinical meetings.
Yeah.
Um, but I had this realization where I'm like, man, things are going so good right now. And I have this weird belief, like when good things happen to me, bad things are around a corner. And I know I'm not alone in that feeling, right? Like, do you ever get that in your head? Like you're like, oh,
Dude,
something's gonna happen soon.
you remember how like we jumped on that call right before I left, and I was like, dude, like things are just like cruising right now. Like everything is going so good. This is like a span of like 3 or 4 months where just like everything's going right within my practice, right? And of course, the whole lease situation comes up. One of our front desk SDRs ends up putting in her notice and stuff. So there's a good quote out there that I think will resonate with a lot of people, where it's just like, all good things must eventually come to an end, but vice versa. At the same time, all bad things must also come to an end. And so I think if you can kind of like have this mindset that like, hey, you should always prepare for the inevitable, but at the same time, if you are going through a rough patch, all you have to do is endure, because the sunny days are coming right around the corner, man.
Yeah, I think the first frame that I'll have is like, you got to learn how to collect scars, because that's going to be the way to flex on people a little bit. That's going to be the way to like tell some stories in the future. So immediately, if you're going through something hard, you're like, oh yeah, I'm collecting my first scar, right? Like you're just starting out in business. You get to be like, all right, this is a cool scar. And when you collect enough scars, you get to be able to reflect on those scars over time. But I think immediately in that moment in time, you just be like, okay, this is going to be one of those stories that I tell in the future that I'll get a good laugh out of, right? This is going to be one of those stories like when I meet a bunch of high level entrepreneurs like, and everyone's talking about shit that went down, I get to share my story. So while it sucks right now, there's going to be a moment in the future where like I'm going to crack up about this. Like, and I think every entrepreneur, the thing that they take so much pride in isn't necessary. It's definitely going to be the revenue and how well your business does. But the shit that like really makes you respect others is scars. Like
Mhm.
you got scars, right? Because like everything that we're doing is hard. You're definitely going to get scars. No one does entrepreneurship and comes out of it without any scars. I was just listening to a podcast recently, and a billionaire lost $4 billion and he was getting a divorce. Like,
I thought I had it bad.
yeah, I was like, wow, I can move. I'm good. Like that's not too bad at all. So there's another one where it's like they're talking to the Shopify CEO, and they're talking about all the different problems that this guy has to encounter at the different stages of his business. When they were first 100 users, first 1,000, first 10,000, first 100K. Now Shopify is worth 15 billion or something obscene, and then the market cap space is like 200 billion. It's obscene.
Mm.
But the problem has just become different, and it used to scare the shit out of me of like, oh man, it doesn't get easier. But now I'm like excited to like, I don't know, solve bigger problems. But
Yeah,
that's my first frame, scars. Like I want to collect some scars.
I think a lot of times if people can come into entrepreneurship and like building a business with the expectation that like, hey, this will be hard, that can like potentially change some of the way they like view some of these things, right? Because I think like a lot of times the way social media portrays is just like, oh, dude, you're gonna like crush it like immediately, like no problems at all. But in reality, there's so few people that like are able to navigate through business and scale without any kind of like bottlenecks or issues. And I think the people who do develop the scars, it ultimately allows them to be able to like solve more and more problems because they have that experience from experiencing those scars. Plus, too, it's like all those multi-billion dollar founders who have like giant exits and stuff. Like they probably do have some incredible stories, and that's what makes for a good story, right? If you think about all the really cool movies that we like watching, right, that all make for a great tale, the hero never goes through without like any kind of struggle. There's always some sort of antagonist, or like villain or like level boss that he has to face, and he's probably like beaten down a couple times. But what always happens is that the hero or the main protagonist, he always gets back up. And I think if we can kind of like take that mindset and just like, cool, like I know to get from like 0 to 10K, like I'm probably going to have to fight some like demons and battles, whether it's like mindset stuff or whatever it is, right? To be able to get here. But if I know that going into business, cool, I can kind of like expect that, hey, this is probably not going to be easy. And then same thing to go from like 10K to like 50K. Cool. Like what got me to 10K, those problems are probably going to be a lot easier than the problems that I have to face to get me from 10K to 50K. Cool. How do I like increase my armor or like increase my resiliency to be able to face these problems as well too? And so yeah, like you got to have the scars, man. It's part of the game, and I think it's really like what's so fun about entrepreneurship and like business building is really the fact that you get to solve problems, right? If everything was super smooth sailing, there is no problems to solve. But if you can continue to like solve problems that unlock themselves at like higher and higher levels, it's fun.
Yeah, and one caveat is you can't be giving yourself scars. Like, because that's something that you can easily run into, right? Where it's like you never take accountability for things, you keep blaming other people, and then that's you inflicting scars on yourself. That's not the scars that you want to show. You want to show scars where like some shit went down that was out of my control, but I focused on what I could control and I overcame this. It's not like, hey, I shot myself in the foot and then I gave myself stitches. Like that's the dumbest story ever, right? Like, what's a frame that you got for yourself? Like, and I guess we can even talk about whether it's a frame or like a mental process that you go through in your head.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to the things that I have experienced previously before in the past, I have overcome it. I now know, like, hey, if the situation does occur again in the future, I can overcome it again. But the first time that you do experience it, it will be extremely difficult and will be extremely stressful. But that's part of the process. And I'll give you a good example, right? Like, I remember the first time that I was looking to like hire a PT. Super, super stressful. And I'll even go even further. The first time I had to fire a PT, right? Super, super stressful because I never done anything like that before. Bro, I remember like just staying up at night, losing sleep for like 2 weeks in a row because I was like dreading the moment that I would have to have that conversation with that PT. It's just uncomfortable conversation that I've never had to have before. And I just kept delaying and delaying, delaying, delaying. But I knew eventually it had to happen. And again, like super stressful time in my life. But again, looking back on it, is because I never experienced anything like that before. Same thing with like when we did our first initial build out, right? Like, hey, never experienced anything like that before. Like, holy shit, am I signing my life away on this lease? I got to spend all this money on equipment. Like, oh, am I gonna go at it? Am I going to debt or what? Like, what's gonna happen? But now, like, I've done that so many times before. I know like what to expect, and so I think it's just really just anytime that I do get into a uncomfortable and difficult situation that I hadn't experienced before, I can kind of like I'll verbalize out loud to myself, like, dude, like it's gonna be okay. Like this is normal. This is part of the process because you've never had to go through this. But if you do make it through this, like you're gonna be 10 times more resilient because you're gonna be able to overcome the situation. And if you do overcome the situation, which at the time feels like it's the most impossible thing ever, like what can't you overcome?
That is a perfect segue into kind of like the frame that I'll take, right? It's like you at some point you collect enough scars and you've done enough things that you identify as someone that is just able to handle whatever comes their way. Like
Yeah.
at some point you got to make that shift. I call it like part of it's like growing up, right? Like you do something enough and you realize that you're just that type of person. So like, hey, I'm Peter. I'm just the type of person where I go on vacation, some shit fucking goes down, but you know what? I'm not stressing because this shit's happened so many times. I'll come back and I'm gonna fix it. So I'm gonna enjoy my vacation. I had this same exact thing happen in December where I was like, man, we had a full time PT leave. Another person I know was probably on his way out. So I'm like, we're trying to enjoy this like time with Christy's family. And I'm like, my mind's racing. I'm like, there's nothing I can do now. And I'm just the type of person to fucking figure it out. Right. So like, that's another frame I'll take is like, who are you as a person? Like, what do you tell yourself? Like, who are you as a person, Peter? Like, is there stuff that you're like, I'm that motherfucker? You know, like, do you like do anything like that?
So I think this is maybe like a year or 2 years ago, really big trend in the NBA scene, but it's like the guy's like, I am him. I'm him, you know? And so I think like that's something that just I love is the fact that like, hey, like you're that guy that you've been able to overcome like all these different things. Like, what can't you do? And I think a lot of it really just does come from like the repetitions. And I think well, we can even term it as like a repeated graded exposure, right? The more you kind of expose yourself to these like uncomfortable, difficult situations, the less like uncomfortable it will become and seem in the future because you've built yourself up to that. I think one of the things that I see a lot of parallels with like being resilient, having confidence, like being able to endure and suffer tough shit, is really just also like exercise and fitness. I think like for me, like I've gone through multiple different phases. At one point, I was doing like bodybuilding. One point, I was doing CrossFit. One point, I was doing like a little bit of powerlifting, and then now I'm currently like in my running era. Right, but the parallels that like all these things, who knows? Maybe I'll be in my high rocks era in the next couple months with the way things are trending. But if you take a look at like the parallels of exercise, for the most part, is every single morning you put yourself through some sort of like uncomfortable situation where like as you're going through it, it's like it sucks. Your heart rate's jacked up, your muscles burn, but it's like if you're able to make it through that, you almost set the tone for the day. Cool. I woke up, I did something hard. Now I can go about my day and like, tackle shit. So I would highly encourage you guys. And I think for the majority of people listening to this podcast, right, we're all physical therapists, we all value fitness and health. But like if you let your like fitness go off to the side, I always feel like there's a big, big difference between whenever I do fitness versus like my resiliency and like capabilities within business.
I agree 100%. It's like when you train yourself and you do those kind of things, there is like a flip in your switch. One, you start to prioritize yourself, so you show up differently. But like you can't like think about how much stress you can handle when you're not sleeping, not eating well, and all this bullshit is happening in your life, right? Like typically you're gonna feel the best when you're taking care of yourself. And I have noticed a huge change in myself now where like I can't there's no point in building a business where you can't train and
Mhm.
like handle the things that you need to like have a good peace of mind. So 100% agree on that one. Uh, but yeah, what else framed for you like that you think of immediately? So we got um, this is a cool scar that I'm going to be able to show off later. We've got, I've been here before and like do, doing something new is okay because I'm going to get used to
Mhm.
this in the future. And then I'm this type of person.
Yeah.
And for me, like, that type of person, I always say, like, I'm just the type of person to always figure it out straight up. Like, that's just who I am. That's what I've always done. So that's how I always frame things.
Love it. Another good like conversation you can have with yourself whenever you are having a difficult conversation is play out the best case, worst case scenario. Right. So a lot of times I think people catastrophize what's catastrophize, right? Like
Catastrophize.
we'll catastrophize, right? We'll catastrophize pain.
Yeah.
Like patients will catastrophize pain, right? As business owners, we'll often catastrophize like what's the worst case scenario. But if you really play out like best case, worst case scenario, whenever you do have to come to an uncomfortable decision, you really realize like worst case scenario isn't the end of the world. It's really not that bad. And I'll give you a couple different like scenarios throughout like different stages, right? Like worst case scenario, like when I was first initially starting out, like side hustle phase, hanging on to starting out a business. Best case scenario with that, right? Like, cool, I'm able to scale and build a full time job for myself. Worst case scenario, cool, this thing maybe doesn't work out. I go back and get a regular part time or a regular physical therapy job, which I'm currently already doing. So if you think about it like that, right? A lot of times people that are already starting, or they're terrified to let go, or they're terrified of starting, they're technically already in their worst case scenario. So they can't get even worse than that. Right. And then maybe for at another scenario for somebody who's like maybe a little bit higher up, hey, I'm like afraid to run ads. Right. I'm terrified of running ads. Like, what's the worst case that could happen? What's best case that could happen? Cool. Best case scenario, we get influx of leads. You're able to make a net immediate 3 to 4x return on ad spend. You don't need to depend as heavily on like word of mouth and or like local marketing events. Worst case scenario, cool. Maybe you learn a new skill and you learn what not to do. Right? You test some things out. Maybe you spend a couple $100, $100, $500 on ad spend, but it's a learning opportunity that now know. Okay, cool. Maybe this type of copy didn't really resonate with my demographic. Maybe this type of creative didn't really resonate. Cool. How can I go back to the drawing board and retest some things out? So I would highly encourage you guys, like if you guys are in like a difficult, stressful situation, best case scenario, this is what happens. Worst case scenario, this is what happens. And a lot of times, zoom out. Worst case scenario really isn't that bad.
I love that because I will play certain things in my head, right? It's like, what's my like I guess like one of the other things I'll think about in business is like, what's my new floor, right?
Mm,
Like right now it's like I know that I will never go below a certain threshold because I've acquired these skills for myself, right? So before maybe my floor was like 5K a month, right? Now my floor is like, all right, if I'm stripped of everything and I'm just by myself, my floor is probably like 30, 40K a month. You know what I mean? Like personally,
yeah.
like I know I could grind my ass off and like create that floor. So it's like worst case scenario, everyone leaves. All right, I can make this happen for myself. Is that okay? Can I be okay with this? I know I'm gonna be working long ass hours and be able to do those things, but for the most part, things are still within my control. Beautiful. Like, I can handle that. So like always think to yourself, how am I raising my floor? Right? You can only raise your floor by learning new skills, acquiring new things, going through some hardships. But when I laid out that scenario, oftentimes it's like we make it a lot worse than it is. You
Mhm.
have a dip in revenue. Okay. What happens when you have a dip in revenue? Are you still going to have a roof over your head? Yes. Will you be able to pay rent? Yes. Can you still afford groceries? Yes. Okay. Can you still go out if you wanted to for like a dinner? Yes. Okay. So, like, how does your life change, right?
Mhm.
Business, I think, especially in what we do with like the service industry, we're not going to 5X, 10X, 20X out of nowhere. right?
Yeah.
As you start, initially you will as a solo provider, but as your team starts to grow, we're not looking for these insane returns on investment. You're looking for consistent 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30% increases year after year,
Yeah.
and that compounds. So when you're looking for returns like that, you don't need to be taking obscene risk, right? So I think part of like the worst case scenarios is as long as you're not doing things that are dumb, like taking a car lease that's like a thousand a month that you might not afford, moving preemptively into like a massive house that you can't afford. Those things are things that you should really, really consider. Like you just need to be have develop a little bit more financial literacy before making those moves. But for the most part, when you have a down revenue month and you haven't done anything ridiculous, you can weather the storm for another month or two. And
Yeah.
that's why you have like your security, right? Like security account, rainy day fund, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think also too, it's like whenever you do have like maybe a little bit of a lower revenue month or maybe an unfortunate situation, you should always analyze and critique like, why did this occur? If you don't have the data to be able to figure out like why this occurs, then most likely like this shit will occur like again. And so I think one of the frames that I always try and take that has helped me like improve my outlook on things is any kind of like negative situation that occurs. How can I turn this into some sort of learning opportunity so that I don't make this mistake again in the future? And so I'll give you a good example is our front desk SDR that had just left. The main reason she'd been with us probably like just about right at a year now. But main reason that she decided she left was that she couldn't see herself growing here anymore. Right? And so, cool. That was like actually, again, for me, it sucked because she was awesome. She was great. But to her point, she's completely right. Right? Like right now, like we have two and a half SDRs. But the next growth opportunity potentially would just be for her to manage more people. But we haven't paved that path for her yet. So now I know, like, hey, like in the future, when we do bring on somebody for like a front desk SDRO, cool. I need to set very clear expectations in the beginning from her, at the beginning with them. Like, hey, here is your growth trajectory at this company, and here's how you can achieve your goals. And so it's like, yeah, in the moment, it's not a great situation. We're currently hiring for an SDR, but it's like I was able to take away something from that. So if you can take away something from like an unfortunate situation, whether it's like, hey, a staff employee leaving or a little bit of a lower down revenue month. Cool. What was the learning opportunity? Okay, if I had a lower revenue month, was it because my leads weren't good? Okay, was it because my sales to my eval to plan of care conversion wasn't good? Okay, why wasn't it good? Was it because of like objections that I don't know how to handle and reframe? And so you have to critique and analyze like, okay, if there is a not so great situation, unfortunate situation, why did this occur? What's the learning takeaway from it?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant. If we tie it back to the beginning, right? It's like you want to not give yourself scars. So if Peter wanted to give himself a scar, it would be like, all right, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Repeat the same exact process that doesn't work. Keep shooting myself in the foot, stitching it up, and shooting myself in the foot again. Um, that is like I feel like I did that for like the first 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, I did 100% as well too, man. It's just because I wasn't willing to take accountability for the actions that I did. It was always like, hey, this like woe is me mentality. It's like, oh, dude, like my staff is like, why is my staff treating me like this? How could they? Like, why is all this woe is me like occurring? But the moment you like take accountability for it, the moment you really take control of your outlook and your mentality, and you realize, hey, these are all things that are well within my control, and that basically means that I can pull the levers to change a different outcome in the future.
the the problem solving side of things. I think is the biggest key. It's like you gotta just look at everything as like an opportunity, right? It's like the woe is me, like, oh, why me? Why does this always happen to me? I can't tell you why this always happens to you, besides the fact that like it just keeps happening to people that always say those things, right? Like we all have that in our friend group. It's like, oh, why me? And like those people are usually miserable to be around because it's like the world is happening to them. And we've been on this big kick of like agency. And this guy, George Max, is some gangster shit. It's like, are you happy? Like life is happening to you, sure, but it's like, are you happening to life? Like like people have like this like internal locus of control. It's the same thing with like people in chronic pain, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I'll ever be able to get out of this. It's like, are you happening to your pain? Are you going to be so freaking proactive that you'll be able to solve whatever comes through your way? I think that is just one frame I'll have now. It's like, I straight up look at a scenario. My response is this high agency or just low agency? Am I giving up control or am I taking control? And I don't need to know that what I'm about to attempt is going to work. I just need to know that what I'm about to attempt is going to be something different and it's within my control. Because that's the only way forward, to try some shit, right? To actually do something out of the ordinary, to just make moves. Like I don't know what people believe in, like I have become a little bit more spiritual, but I just feel like the universe is conspiring to help me, develop as a person and build things and make a tremendous impact. And it's only going to reward me if I fucking make moves, not if I just stand here and do nothing.
Yeah.
Granted, there's going to be times where like you would do really well by just standing still and just relaxing. But that's usually when you're doing so much that you're like, hey, just give yourself a minute, right? Like take that 1 week trip. If you feel like work is popping off and things are going amazing and like you don't necessarily need to be working that hard, sure, for sure. Take a weekend to yourself. But when stuff is coming up and you need to attack these scenario like situations, you gotta fucking happen to life. So that's one frame. Is my response high agency or low agency?
Do you have like any good like ways for people to almost like placebo themselves? Because I feel like that's kind of like a lot of it is what it kind of comes down to, right? It's like people, how can you kind of almost like trick yourself if people don't have like these past experiences yet? How can you trick yourself into like believing like, hey, this is something like good that's gonna occur?
I would say the biggest trick is going to be the mantras, right?
Mm.
It's a you. I'll repeat this forever. Like I know I've said this in multiple podcasts, but we have 5,000
It's
to
a bar,
12,000,
dude. It's a
yeah,
bar.
5,000 to 12,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them on average are negative. And people always ask me all the time, like, "How are you so confident?" I'm like, "Because I talk to myself nicely now, right?"
Yeah.
Like, you can't be confident. Imagine you have a kid and you're wondering why your kid isn't confident. And in reality, all you do is make fun of that kid all of the time and talk to them about how they do everything wrong. What kind of environment are you setting up for that kid? Now, remember, that kid is you and it's inside of you, right? So, like, at some point, you got to talk to yourself nicely and just keep saying those things. Other things I think that are super useful in terms of frames is like in these scenarios is it doesn't need to be in business. You can think about any aspect of your life where you've done something hard that you didn't think you could do, but through sheer will, you made it happen,
Mhm.
right? So I'll give you examples that might be unconventional that I've worked through recently. I've been working with our coach Erica, and I always now I've realized I'm like I've always been the type of person that figures things out. And even when I was cheating on exams in high school and college, I was developing better ways of cheating, like to get the answers. So
Facts.
it's like, I just always fucking figured it out. That might not be in business, but I'm just a resourceful person. I don't want to fail, so I'm going to learn how to cheat. I was selling sneakers at a certain price, and I realized that like I can sell it for more if I learn how to Photoshop and like take better pictures. So I learned how to Photoshop and take better pictures. Like I learned how to adjust the lighting so like my listings for sneakers look amazing. So it's like I know that I'm the type of person that's super resourceful. When I was younger, I would buy a pair of shoes off eBay. I would send it to some guy in Chinatown. He would clean it and restore them for me, and then I would resell them on eBay again. So I didn't even do any of the cleaning at one point. I was just the middleman. I was getting the used shoes, getting it to some guy that was a professional at restoring them, getting them back in like pristine condition, putting them back on eBay. So it's like there are moments in your life that you are resourceful. There are moments in your life that you've done some stuff that was facing adversity. It might not look like business, but you need to reframe all those moments as that's the type of person you are.
Love that. Do you ever give yourself time to almost like feel bad for yourself? And then if so, like, hey, like how long do you let yourself feel bad for yourself before you decide to kind of like implement all these reframes and start taking action?
It's kind of like readiness with like tendinopathy rehab, right? Like, let's say like you are rehabbing your tendon, you have terrible sleep, your diet's been off, and like you're super stressed out of work. That tendon might be a little bit more sensitive than usual. So now, like that discomfort lingers for a longer period of time. So like if you're not working out, taking care of yourself and like doing the things that your body needs, your ability to decrease that time severely diminishes. Like if I am eating right, I got my grilled chicken, sweet potatoes, vegetables, training, get my 20 to 30 miles per week, I can take that like adversity and shrink it down to feeling it for only maybe 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But that becomes a skill. I would say now, like my frames can be as quick as like a minute
Yeah.
in certain scenarios. But with something bigger that requires a little bit more creative problem solving, I think it'll take a little bit longer. But this is not to like flex on you guys, right? It used to take a month for certain scenarios. It used to
Yep.
take a week. But as a entrepreneur, your goal is to just and slowly trim the fat and make it as quickly as possible. Life isn't about like getting punched in the face and you're constantly smiling, right? You still need to experience all of the emotions, but you can't let yourself linger on an emotion that isn't serving you.
I love that.
What about you?
I would say it's same exact thing, man. Before back in the day, dude, I would lose a ton of sleep over it. And then now it's really just like I think the time frames have generally gotten less and less and less as you slowly take more and more accountability, more and more control. Right. I would say like yeah, for me at the most, if I hear some bad news in the middle of the day, like yeah, I'm gonna feel pissed about it. I'm gonna feel some emotions rise, but generally within like a couple hours, I'm like cool. Like, what are the next steps I need to do to be able to navigate this scenario, the situation, and let's take action on it. I think before, yeah, it would be like, all right, let me muse on this. Let me continue to think about it. But the more you think about it, it's like the more in that negative mindset you are, and it slowly bleeds into other things, right? So now that I know that, it's like same thing. I'll kind of let myself not completely like disregard emotions. Like, yeah, still feel it, and it's part of the process. But I know now I'm like much quicker to like to the next step, which is to how do we problem solve? How do we take action so that we can turn this thing and flip this thing around ASAP?
There's this might resonate with you guys that do like these ultra endurance events, right? It's like when you hit a new threshold for your tempo runs and you feel a pain that you haven't felt in a while, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till this pain doesn't feel quite as painful because I know I've stepped up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think, CrossFitters enter the pain cave, people that do high rocks are just like, you almost lose yourself. Like you laugh a little bit when you're in a pain cave. Like that's a fucking dangerous motherfucker, right? Someone that is being inflicted pain, you're like, ha ha ha, I can't wait. But that's almost how ridiculous you have to be when you encounter things, right?
Yeah.
So you can immediately future frame to yourself, like, okay, I can't believe this shit just fucking happened to me. Oh my goodness. But wait a minute. The person I'm on the other side of this is gonna be so dope, right? So Peter might be like, I am doing 5-minute tempos right now and it fucking sucks. But God, can you imagine how this is gonna feel when 5-minute tempos doesn't suck anymore? Like,
When
and the
it
beautiful
becomes my zone two.
yeah, like the beautiful part is like we're all adaptable,
Yeah.
right? And the most plastic thing in our body is probably our brain. So it's like it's just so cool to know that like the shit that you're going through right now, everything can be trained like a muscle.
Yeah. And everything that you're going through like will come to an end, and that's okay. You just got to endure. And you guys might think like, hey, like me and Andy have it all figured out. We really don't. We still have problems, just as similar to you guys. Our problems are just on a different level, but we still have problems. Right? We still have stress. But again, we don't necessarily view it as stress. We view it a little bit differently. Right. So if you guys can kind of take this mentality and adapt it to kind of like viewing it through a different lens at these like earlier stages of business, then you'll probably get way more sleep at night than when I did back in the day.
Dude, I always like, we're the feedback that we've gotten, it's like, yeah, I love the podcast. You guys are like so real about stuff. We can only lead you through things that we've solved ourselves, right? And I was talking to somebody that was interested in our coaching. I'm like, listen, like if you want to scale to like 8 figures, like scale to 10 million, I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
But if you want to scale to 7 figures, like yeah, we've done that. If you want to build just a job for yourself where like you could be self sufficient, yeah, we've done that totally. If you want to learn how to scale to a bigger team, if you want to do specialize in like certain performance aspect of things, like yeah, we've helped people do those things. So like, we're more than happy to, and we'll always be upfront. It's like our business is not pristine, right? It's just like you don't need to know everything about back pain to help someone else with back pain. You just got to know more than them. It's the same thing with us. Like we are still actively working on making our business better because times have changed. There's coaches that will do this and it's like they've run the same business and they're going to coach other people, or maybe they've sold their business and it's like shit changes, man. Like business, you're constantly adapting to different things. Like I just fucked around this weekend, created a GPT tool for our group so that they can develop better content ideas this past weekend, right? Like things change. The principles stay the same, but things change. So, you know, we call it the pathless path. There's no clear, like smooth pavement, right? Like we're just navigating everything together with you, etc. But yeah, I don't want to be Peter always jokes like, man, we got to get a Lamborghini you know, for the ads. But I'm like, yo, bro, we're going to step out of your fucking Toyota Tacoma or whatever. And I got my Honda Accord. Like, this is what entrepreneurship is.
Dude, it's also the fact that we're Asian, man. Oh, we always got to go with Honda and Toyotas, dude.
Toyotas. I got a couple of lines that I'm going to share before we hop off. And I know, Peter, you got a couple of lines. One of my coaches is Dan Martell. So he says, new levels, new devils. And I love that, right? To go somewhere you've never been, you got to conquer another devil. The old high is the new low. That is fire. And that's exactly what we're looking for, right? Right now, you might be hitting a PR and you're super stoked, but eventually that PR is going to be your floor. And you can't forget that. You have to be so grateful for these things. Expand your capacities at your extremities. So it's like you can't expand until you stress yourself enough. And we know this intuitively as performance physical therapists. Your patient is not going to get stronger until they're training at the edge of their capabilities. Your ability as an entrepreneurship will not expand until you're operating at the edge of your capabilities. Yeah. So those are kind of three things that like I'll kind of leave you guys with for me that like really, really help me see things differently. Anything like that for you? That you just like, I see this shit and I'm like,
I got one that comes to mind, man. I'm always thinking about like video games and like stories and stuff, but I'm always got this good one. It's like the larger the dragon you slay, the better the tale. Right. So it's like if a lot of you guys want to scale to like, you know, 7 figures, but the thing is you have to realize like at 7 figures you have 7-figure problems. The cool thing is like, dude, that's a big like motherfucking dragon, dude. Like 7-figure dragon, dude. But the thing is like when you do finally conquer that, it's a really great story. Like I've got tons of really good stories and like lessons that I've learned in terms of like how I actually got to where I am now. Right. And so yeah, larger the dragon, like the better the tale. But the thing is, like, if you guys can kind of develop some of these like mantras and like these one-liners, like, dude, I a lot of this like mindset shit I still listen to when I'm running, and I feel like I'm able to run through a motherfucking wall, dude.
Yeah, dude. To Peter's point, with dragons, right? Remember that you're not the only one slaying a dragon.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, and I would say sometimes you're by yourself when you're getting started, but in the later stages, you're growing a team, and as long as you're trying to support your team and become a better leader, it's multiple people trying to slay the same dragon with you, and that's the end goal, right? Like, don't feel like you got to do this stuff in isolation. Grow your team, grow your community, because like if you're a part of coaching groups, like the people in your coaching group ideally are helping you slay this dragon. But last bit before we kind of go off is don't pathologize normal. Right. I'm going to write a whole essay about this, but I think people pathologize things that are just normal parts of human experience. You go through hard times. It's normal. Everyone does. Right. And the more you pathologize it and you go take this why me mentality, you make it seem like it's abnormal and you deserve some sort of special treatment. But in reality, everyone goes through hard times, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for someone else. It's just you got to pick your problems that you want to solve.
Yeah. Love that, dude.
Guys, first off, we got 28 reviews, 5-star. We are so close to 30. So you can help us with 30. If this episode makes you want to run through a wall or shoot yourself in the foot so you can give yourself stitches, give us a 5-star review. And again, we got the GGC live event August 9th and 10th. If you're interested in attending the event, just DM at Go Getters Coaching on Instagram live, and we'll send you all of the information.
But come slay some dragons with us.
Come slay some motherfucking dragons. We're breaking down everything. I'm going to show you exactly how I post 45 pieces of content every single week. Christy's going to be breaking down finances, tax strategies. Peter's going to be breaking down all the sales, objection handling, things that no one ever teaches us. There's some phenomenal salespeople, but when it comes to physical therapy related things, Peter is the fucking man. And I don't say that because he is, a co-founder for a GGC. I say that because I've seen this guy operate at such a high level. He's unbelievable. We got my buddy Daniel McKenna coming in to talk about mindset. We will have a bit about paid ads, and Peter's going to be breaking down just a broad overview of those things. And it will close off with how to develop the best asset you have in your business. This is just going to be an insane event. So if you want to attend this event, message at Go Getters Coaching on Instagram live, and we'll send you the information. Any last words, Peter?
Go slay some dragons, y'all.
Let's slay some motherfucking dragons. Peace.